What's up, Ignite? It's Josh here. It's good to see you guys. I'm super excited about our first Fellowship Friday message, but before we get to that, I want to share two quick announcements. First of all, if you like Minecraft and you like other BCC people, then we actually have a BCC Minecraft server just for now during this time of quarantine. It's a great way to connect with other students, especially other 5th through 8th graders. So if you have Minecraft, the IP address has been sent out to your parents, so make sure to check that out. And then the other announcement is that we actually have a week-long competition as an Ignite ministry going on this week with big prizes, but I won't explain that until the end of the video, so you'll have to wait. Stay tuned. This weekend is one of my favorite holidays. This is Easter weekend. I hope it's one of your favorite holidays too. What happened on this holiday, what the holiday is commemorating, has changed my life, and I hope it's a story that has changed your life too. And today we're going to have a lot of fun because I'm going to first share with you the Easter story, which I'm sure you've heard, but I invite you to join in one more time for the most incredible story ever told. And then you guys are going to actually get a chance to share the story in your own way, and we'll again talk about that at the end of the video. So, as I said, I pray and hope this story has changed your life. This story would be amazing if it was a fictional story. It would be a bestseller if it was fictional, but it's even more amazing because it's true, because it's about a real guy who really lived, who really died, and who really rose again. Spoiler alert. So if you want to, you can read this story in John 18:1 through 21:19. I encourage you to. You could pause the video and read it now. Don't worry, I'll wait. You could do it at the end. You could do it really whenever you want, but I encourage you to read this story, maybe with your family, and look at the details of this incredible, incredible tale. But today, I'm going to get a chance to tell you the story. And as I said, this story has changed my life, and I pray that it's changed yours. So this story is obviously about Jesus, and the story opens up with the religious leaders. Now, the religious leaders of Israel were very powerful men who controlled the country and the religious system, and they were quite jealous of Jesus. They were jealous of his success, they were jealous of the people following him, and most of all, they were angry at him for telling the truth about them, telling the truth about the people around them. Sometimes when somebody reveals something about us that we don't really like, it can make us angry. And for these guys, instead of leading them to repent, it made them very angry. And so they actually convinced one of Jesus's closest friends, one of his disciples, to betray him. And then they led a mob in the middle of the night. They led a group of soldiers to Jesus and they arrested him. Now, I don't know if you've ever been betrayed. I've been betrayed, and it's one of the worst feelings in the world. I can't imagine what it was like to be Jesus in a garden outside of Jerusalem and to see one of your closest friends coming towards you, surrounded by your enemies, carrying swords and clubs, and to watch as the rest of your friends ran away. Because that's what Jesus' disciples did. They fled and they left him, every single one of them. And they left him to be arrested and led away to his trial. Now, I want to back up a little bit. So one of Jesus' disciples, you might have heard this name, was a guy named Peter, and he was the head of Jesus' disciples. And right before this whole thing happened, Peter had made a promise to Jesus. He had said, look, Jesus, even if everyone else runs away, I will die with you. Now, Peter did run away, but he followed Jesus from a distance. So keep that in your brain, lock that away, because that's relevant later in the story. So they take Jesus to his dirty trial at night. They take him to, you guys have probably seen courtroom TVs. They take him to a courtroom. It's at night. They have fake witnesses. They have false testimony. And ultimately, they convict Jesus of blasphemy. But they can't do anything to him because, you see, the Jewish leaders are not in charge. They're not the police. They're not the prosecutors. They need the real police to actually hand down the crime, hand down the sentence. And they know what sentence they want for Jesus. They want the death sentence. They want Jesus, who never did anything wrong, to die for their own purposes. Now, outside of the courtroom where all of this drama was happening, Peter is standing in a fire, and this girl comes up to him, and she sees his face, and she goes, wait, are you one of Jesus' disciples? And Peter says, nope, not me, and denies Jesus. And then a second time, someone asks him, wait, you're definitely one of his disciples. You look just like him. And Peter says, no, I have no idea who Jesus is. And then the third time, a bunch of people surround Peter and say, you're definitely one of his disciples. And Peter has the chance to own up to his friend Jesus, to stand up for Jesus. And instead, he says, no, I swear, I am not one of his disciples. And he actually makes a promise in God's name that he has never known Jesus. And then when he does that, Jesus comes back out of the courtroom and looks at Peter. And Peter knows exactly what he's done. And he just breaks and he heads outside and cries. And the story shifts back to Jesus as Peter is outside weeping and regretting. Jesus is being taken to the big cheese, the big man, a guy named Pontius Pilate. Now, Pontius Pilate was the Roman governor of the region, and he was an interesting man. He liked justice, but not too much, and he was very, very cruel. But he apparently had some kind of, I don't know, character or something going on, because when the Jews brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate and said, all right, kill him, Pilate said no. Pilate said, no, you have to actually accuse him of a crime. You haven't accused him of any crime. And the Jews start arguing with Pilate. It's this amazing back and forth drama court trial where the Jews are saying, he said this, and Pilate says, well, I don't think that's death worthy. And they're like, well, he said, and the whole time Pilate's trying to get Jesus released, but more and more Jewish leaders are gathering and more people are gathering, and it's getting loud and it's getting scary. And so Pilate just comes up with a plan to get Jesus released. Pilate says, all right, I will give them the option of releasing either Jesus or a murderer. I'll release either Jesus or a literal straight up murderer named Barabbas. And you can guess what happens. When he brings both of them out, the murderer and Jesus, the crowd chooses the murderer. And the murderer is set free. That's how much the leaders hated Jesus. And Pilate doesn't know what else to do. His hands seem tied. If he tries to let Jesus free, there's going to be a riot. But if he kills Jesus, he's killing an innocent man. And so Pilate ultimately makes the decision to put Jesus to death. And with the crowd's cheers, with their approval, with everybody crying for the Son of God to be put to death, Pilate makes the order. He has his soldiers beat Jesus. He has them take him up a hill, and he has Jesus crucified. And what's incredible about this whole thing is that this entire time, Jesus never says anything in his defense. He never says, no, don't crucify me. I'm innocent. I haven't done anything wrong. They're jealous. I'm not a criminal. No, he stays quiet. And the question that spins in the back of my head is, why? Why does Jesus let these bad people, why does he let these people who are jealous of him kill him without ever raising an objection? Why did he do it? Well, I think it's cool because he did it for you. And he did it for me. See, what Jesus was doing when he did that, he was making the payment for all of the bad things we've done. All of the times we've looked at God and said, yeah, God, I know the way you want me to do this, but I'd really rather do it my way. All the times we have given up on a God of life and chosen to do it our own way, to sin, to disobey, to choose death over life. And Jesus says, it's okay, I'll pay for that. I'll pay for all the bad things. I'll take the punishment that you deserve for everything you've done and everything you're gonna do in the future. And I'll pay for that so that you can go free. I love what Paul says in the book of Romans. He says, you see, at just the right time, while we were still powerless, Jesus died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrated his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, while we were still bad people, Christ died for us. But here's the good news. The good news is that he doesn't stay dead. See, 3 days later, they go back to Jesus' tomb and it's empty. It's still empty. Jesus rose from the dead. Not only did he rise from the dead and leave behind an empty tomb, he actually went and met his disciples. He saw his disciples. Tons of people saw him. Women saw him. Men saw him. Jesus has risen from the dead, showing that he's exactly who he says he is. He is God in the flesh. He is the Son of God, victorious over death, who's beaten death and beaten sin and risen from the dead. Now, there's a lot of different stories about the different people Jesus appeared to, but I wanted to share with you my favorite. This story happens at a beach. I hope you like beaches. And you see, this was a little while after Jesus has died. His disciples were out in boats. Peter was there, probably still feeling pretty bad, right? I think you would, about betraying Jesus. And as they're all there, they're all fishing. They're not catching anything. It's a pretty bad fishing trip. Jesus shows up on the beach. And when they recognize him, Peter is so excited to see Jesus that he literally jumps out of the boat and swims to Jesus. And the rest of the disciples are like, okay. And they just row the boat back in. And Peter swims into the beach, climbs out, probably soaking wet and stinky, and just sits down by Jesus. And when they get there, Jesus has actually built a fire and prepared breakfast for them. That's the kind of guy Jesus is, even when he rose from the dead. So Jesus has a hot breakfast for them, and all the disciples gather around and they're eating. And Jesus looks at Peter. And Jesus, this is his chance, right? And go, Peter, you betrayed me. You did a bad thing. You are wrong. You should be punished. Peter, go to your room, right? Jesus has all these chances to lecture Peter. But instead, Jesus looks at Peter and he says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, oh, yes, Lord, you know I do. And Jesus said, okay, then feed my sheep. And he does that 3 times. Each time he says to Peter, do you love me? And when Peter says, yes, Lord, you know I do, he gives him a mission. Feed my sheep. Take care of my people. And then at the end, he gives him the mission and all the disciples the mission to carry out the gospel message to tons of people. You see, Jesus forgives Peter. Jesus looks Peter in the eye, takes his word for it that Peter loves him, and forgives him, and never mentions again what Peter had done. Not only does he forgive him, he gives him a new mission to care for the other Christians, to care for the other disciples, and to teach his word. That's how graceful Jesus is, that no matter how bad the things we've done are, even if we're Peter and we say, I don't know who Jesus is, when it really counts, he still forgives us. Incredible, incredible hope. It gives me hope for the grace Jesus can have in my life. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys about the Easter story. It's good news. It's good news that Jesus told Peter and told other people, that they went and told people that Jesus rose from the dead, and they went and told people, and eventually someone told me, and here I am telling you that it's good news that we can have forgiven all of the bad stuff we've done, all the death that we've done, all the times we've disobeyed and just taken our way, that can be forgiven and washed away completely because of Jesus if we only trust him. So now it's your turn. What I want you guys to do, we're going to have a bit of a competition this week, is I want you guys to take a chance to tell the Easter story in your own words. You're going to do this at home, and I want you to be creative with it. You could maybe do a drawing of the Easter story. You could do a Lego building of the Easter story. You could do a video, a skit, a stop motion video. You could sing a song. You could, I don't know, you could just tell the story like I am with someone filming you. I want you to do whatever you're going to do. Come up with a creative way to tell the Easter story to someone who hasn't heard it before. And then I want you to either take a picture or take a video and send it, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to send out a link to your parents. They can upload the video or the picture there, and the winner is going to actually get a prize, which is super cool. So go ahead and do that. We're going to pick one winner who gets a prize, and then we're going to pick like the top 3 or 5 and actually send out their videos to everybody or their pictures to everybody so everybody can enjoy them. So send that in. We'd love to see the way you come up with telling the Easter story with your family. Be creative, enjoy it, and enjoy the high stakes because there is a prize. So I hope you have fun. Celebrate Christ this weekend. Celebrate what he's done for you, that he died for us, but that he didn't stay dead, that he rose again, proving that even death can't hold Jesus down. And if you believe in Jesus, it's not going to hold us down either, because we're going to be resurrected as well. So enjoy that hope. Enjoy time with your family. Eat lots of chocolate eggs. And I'll see you guys later.